Grueling Truth's monthly betting show on, of course, the Grueling Truth Sports Network, which is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. All right, today, guys, we are going to look at the biggest sporting events coming up here in February. Make sure you go to betting.net to find the best place to bet those games. Today, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl 56. We're going to talk about the winner, the point spread. We're going to talk about the top props. I'm going to give you the college basketball game of the month ahead of time, and we're going to give you the boxing fight of the month, which will come up here in a couple weeks. But we're going to start off with Super Bowl 56. Super Bowl 56 right now, the Rams are favored by 4 points. I think generally when people watch football, people are stupid. They think you have to look pretty to win football games. They think good football looks like Kansas City 2 years ago. They think it looks like Green Bay during the regular season. There's more than one way to win games. You can win ugly, and it counts just the same as winning pretty. The Giants, we saw do it to the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl when the Patriots were supposed to have the better team, especially the first time. In the NBA, the Pistons did it to the Lakers in 2004. And simply put, the Bengals know how to win games. It doesn't need to look pretty. It just needs to be effective. The Rams are a pretty team. The stadium's pretty. The coach is pretty. Their offense is pretty. That's not a recipe for success in championship football games. So I'm going to take the Bengals into 4 points. And I think this line could get up to 4.5, maybe even 5 before this is all said and done. But what I really like here is the money line. Right now, money line, the Bengals are plus 170, which is a pretty good payoff. So when you look at that, I'm going to take I'm actually going to bet the Bengals straight up to win this game. I know that may not surprise a lot of you, but even though I'm a Bengals fan, I also am a fan of money, and I'm not going to throw it away. The plus 170 looks good. And this Bengals team has a feel of possibly destiny. And last night, when you go to Paul Brown Stadium and 30,000 tickets were made available, 30,000 people showed up, and the look on the players' faces when they walk out, look at the crowd, was just mind-blowing. And then you look at the Rams, a crowd of 3,000 at a high school stadium. There's a different feel between these two teams right now. And the thing that really sticks out to me, if we're going to bet this game, is the fact that in his past, Matthew Stafford has had the moniker of choking in big games. This is as big as it gets. This is not playing against Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. So I'm going to take the Bengals plus 170 to win the game. If I'm going to bet the points, I'd take the Bengals all day at 4 or 4.5, whichever it goes off. All right, now a lot of people love the sports books, top props. And when you look at the top props, there's a few here that I really like. Number one, Joe Burrow, over 275.5 passing yards. You're getting minus 115. They don't call him Big Game Burrow for nothing. And the receiving unit is as good as any in the NFL. And if Jimmy Garoppolo can throw for 232 yards against the Rams defense, I think Burrow could possibly throw for 400. So I would bet the over 275 there. My other one is, same thing, Big Game Burrow. The Bengals over 22.5 points for the game. That is a minus 105. They went over that number 2 of their 3 playoff games so far. What really strikes me is Cooper Kupp under 104.5 yards receiving. That's minus 120. And I think everybody's going to bet the over here. So if you hold out, these odds may even drop. But the Bengals have had 2 weeks to prepare for Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp may be the best receiver in football right now. But Cooper Kupp's not Jerry Rice. With 2 weeks to prepare, I think the Bengals can hold him under 104.5 receiving yards. I think another safe bet is the Rams to have more time of possession, which right now is minus 120. The Rams have held the ball for at least 34 minutes in all 3 playoff games. I don't see that changing here. I like the Rams to basically control this game on the ground a little bit, not enough to win it, but I think they will to control the time basically the time that the ball is held. Sorry, we got a neighbor dog barking. Cam Akers over 63.5 yards. I think this number is cheap at minus 135. because Akers hasn't hit his mark in any of the team's 3 playoff games. But he did run for 45 yards in the first half against a great 49er run defense despite injuring his shoulder and missing a good chunk of time. Had the Rams not been trailing late, they could have run the clock down via Akers and his legs. I see the Rams playing with a lead here for the first half because the Bengals are more of a second half team. And I think that Cincinnati really struggled at times, especially the runs between the tackles against Kansas City. And I think a big running back to, like Derrick Henry, I think they're better off with them facing a guy like Deontay Foreman for the Tennessee Titans, who ran the ball really well against the Bengals. I think Cam Akers is going to have a nice game here. Joe Burrow, under 36.5 passing attempts. That's plus 100. Burrow threw the ball just 38 times against Kansas City. That was the game that went to overtime. I think that when you look at this game, the Rams will control the clock a little bit in the first half, which may limit Bengal possessions. The Bengals pick it up in the second half, eventually win the game at the end. But I think under 36.5 passing attempts is where I sit here. Next up, we got Matthew Stafford, over 2.5 rushing attempts. Now, Stafford has been a different player in the postseason. He averaged 1.8 rushing attempts per game during the regular season. Stafford has recorded 4 or more rushing attempts in each playoff game. Remembering kneel downs count as rushing attempts also. I don't think he'll get any kneel downs in this, but I think the 2.5 rushing attempts is very possible, if not probable. When I look at some more top props, Jamar Chase, 78.5 over and under receiving yards. And I think with this, I think they're going to put Jalen Ramsey on him one-on-one, which is one of the reasons I picked the Bengals to win this game. And Jalen Ramsey may be the best cornerback in football, but Chase and Burrow are almost impossible to stop by anybody one-on-one. So I'm going to bet the over with Jamar Chase at 78.5 yards. The 12.5 yards over under rushing for Joe Burrow, I'm going to put it over. Burrow is not known as a rusher, but he was seen in these playoffs and even in college, in big games, he will run to make significant plays and to get first downs. With that being said, I think he covers the 12.5 yards over relatively easy. Now, a bet that's a little bit out there on a limb, but we got to have it to make some money, right? Jesse Bates to record an interception right now on FanDuel. He's plus 580. Also, if you want to get these numbers, you could go click on the description at the bottom of this video on our YouTube, which will give you the direct link to FanDuel to check that out. But Jesse Bates, plus 580. I think Bates is one of the best safeties in the league. These odds are long, and they come against Matthew Stafford, who has a penchant for occasionally throwing an errant pass, especially in a big game. We get the most passing yards. Burrow or Stafford? I think I'll go with Burrow here. And especially since I think the Bengals will come back to win this game in the second half. So I'll go with Burrow with the most yards. Anytime touchdown score. We got another big number here, Joe Burrow plus 500. And it's hard to pass this up. He's not afraid to run. And he's outstanding at the quarterback sneak. So if the Bengals get the ball first and goal at the 1, there's a decent shot Joe Burrow's keeping the ball. So I'm going to go Joe Burrow plus 500. On the Rams side, I'm going to go Odell Beckham plus 125. I think the Bengals are really going to try to take away and limit Cooper Kupp. And with that being said, Odell has scored 6 touchdowns in the last 10 games. He's coming off a big performance in the NFC Championship game, even though he didn't score. So I'm going to go with Odell Beckham on that. Another anytime scorer to me is T. Higgins, who's plus 160, which I think is a great number. He's coming off a big performance in the AFC Championship game. And just like Beckham, though, he didn't get in the end zone in that game. And Higgins only has 6 touchdowns this season, but he is a big man who can take advantage of the Rams secondary in a red zone. So to me, that's a good value pick. And the way I really see this game playing out in the end, and the reason I will bet the money line with the Bengals, is I believe Jalen Ramsey will be covering Jamar Chase one-on-one. I think Joe Mixon, I don't think he'll have a big game running the ball, but I think he will catching the ball out of the backfield. And like I said, Matthew Stafford, we still have questions about what happens in big games. I know he looked great in the fourth quarter against San Francisco. He made the big play at the end of the game against Tampa Bay. But I can also say this. He's going up against a team that beat Kansas City and Tennessee, at Kansas City and at Tennessee, which to me is a harder gauntlet than beating a beat-up Buccaneers team in Tampa, or beating a beat-up 49ers team at home. So we'll take the Bengals to win the game. There's your prop bets. Right now, we're going to transition to college basketball, which February 15th, we're going to have a big game in the Big East between Villanova and Georgetown. Now, it's the day after Valentine's Day, and I think Providence is going to get the love here it deserves. Ed Cooley is out there cruising in the Big East, and despite playing without the injured A.J. Reeves for the past 3 weeks, the Friars enter February leading the Big East at 8-1. They edge out Villanova. This is probably going to be for the regular season Big East title. And Villanova's been on a hot streak with Colin Gillespie averaging 17.1 points per game, 43% from the three-point line. They're also going to see each other in March. So that makes this game even bigger. A Providence win here gives them a little bit of breathing room. And, you know, it's almost impossible to see Providence win in the Big East if they lose both of these games. And when I look at this, I mean, I think that Cooley is a great coach. He's done a great job at Providence. I think they're going to win the Big East. I think they're going to win this game at home on the 15th against Villanova. The big thing here is what's the point spread going to be, but you have to figure that Vegas will overvalue Villanova because Villanova's won a couple national championships over the last few years. They're considered a big dog in the Big East. So really, Providence, even if they're favored, it's going to be by probably 2 or 3 points at most. I would jump all over that in a heartbeat because I think Providence is definitely able to win that game. And we get Joseph Michael, who says mix it on the check route all day in the Super Bowl. All right, guys. Also, remember, it's not just sports betting. Betting.net compares the best online casinos. Sit back, relax, and play the top online slots, poker, and table games. Remember, our odds today are brought to you by FanDuel. Make sure you check FanDuel out. You can go down, click the description at the bottom or right underneath this video on YouTube to get to FanDuel and to be able to get directly there to the odds to be able to bet these games. All right, guys, we're going to go to boxing. We've got a fight that if it was done in 2016 would be a super fight overseas in England. Unfortunately, it's 6 years too late. And in those 6 years, Kell Brook got destroyed by Gennady Golovkin. Amir Khan got destroyed by Canelo Alvarez. This fight's not once what it was. It's still an interesting fight. It may even be a more interesting fight because we don't know who's got the most left here because neither guy's fought a lot. Khan has beaten 3 of his last 5 opponents, stopping 2 of them, going to distance once. In his last fight, he beat the immortal Billy Dibb, and that was on July 12th, 2019. That's 2.5 years ago, guys. He won by a TKO in the 4th round, but previous to that, he had been beaten by Terrence Crawford on April 2019 by a TKO in the 6th round. And the big thing with both of these guys, especially Amir Khan, is every time he's stepped up in competition, he's lost. Kell Brook, on the other side, has fought a little bit more than what Amir Khan does. Brook has beaten 3 of his last 5 opponents, stopping 2 of them, going to distance once. In his last fight, he lost to Terrence Crawford November 14th, 2020. So as you see, there's been a big separation gap for both of these guys since they fought last. So the big thing here is the odds. And right now, the odds are plus 136 if you take Amir Khan. Kell Brook is the better fighter. Kell Brook has had the best career. But if you think of ring rust and activity is a big factor, Kell Brook has been fighting more than Amir Khan. Amir Khan last fought 2 years, 6 months, and 27 days ago, while Kell Brook's last outing was 1 year, 2 months, and 25 days ago. Khan's last 5 fights have come over a period of 5 years, 9 months, and 1 day, meaning he's been fighting on average once a year. And when you look at Khan, I mean, it's really hard when a guy hadn't fought 2.5 years here. So at plus 136, there's not a lot of value here either way, but the odds are not really huge in Brook's favor. So you could make a wager on Brook and do all right getting the money back. I would say this, my wild card here is if Khan all of a sudden becomes plus 160 or 170, I would actually maybe take a chance on Khan just for the value pick. And, you know, you're not getting a ton of value with Brook because he is the favorite, which is how it goes. But right now it's a small favorite, so you can still get some decent value on him. Brook is the guy that I think wins the fight. But like I said, if this drops to plus 150, plus 160, plus 170, then I would go ahead. I would bet Amir Khan on that. All right, guys. And then we've got the NBA, which right now, who knows? We're going to get more into the NBA when we do our March show, our monthly betting show for March. We will look ahead to March Madness, maybe some underdogs that are going to be popping up, favorites that could possibly run through with no issue. And then we will start to look and delve into the NBA a little bit more. And then hopefully boxing, you're going to have, the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, fighting Dillian White right now is scheduled for March the 4th. So we'll do the show before March the 4th to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at that fight. But overall, guys, when you look at this, the month's not great. Let's put it like that. Boxing-wise, you got a lot of fights with a lot of guys that are big favorites. There's really no underdogs there that really strike me. Hell, actually, probably the underdog with the best chance of winning that I see, just on headline main events, would be Amir Khan at plus 136, but that fight's a complete toss-up. You've got a Super Bowl game that I think will go down to the wire between the two best teams in the NFL. Villanova-Providence is a great matchup. Tonight, you've got a big matchup in the Big Ten with Wisconsin and Michigan State. Another big match. There's big matchups all over the place, college basketball-wise, starting tonight. And in about a half hour to an hour, we will be doing our game of the day, picking on that. So make sure you check us out there. That'll be North Carolina against Clemson. And make sure you check out FanDuel. FanDuel is the sports book I use the most. And if you don't like FanDuel, you can head over now and see for yourself. Betting.net makes it easy to find all the legal online casinos or sportsbook in your state. Make sure you check out Betting.net. The great thing about Betting.net is the fact that I live in Indiana, and if you live in New Jersey or you live in New York, when you get on the computer, wherever you're at, it gives you reviews and ratings of places you can legally bet on in your state, which is always huge because a lot of times you don't really know. So make sure you check out Betting.net. They do a great job there. And of course, go ahead, hit up FanDuel. Click in the description, the FanDuel link, which will take you to the review of the FanDuel website and walk you through everything you got to do to bet on FanDuel. All right, guys, for right now, I am done. Tonight, we'll be back at 9:30 with Marissa Contepelli, who is a Bengals beat writer, and of course, Joe Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengal, myself, and Ty Robbins at 9:30 on the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, we'll have an Indiana Basketball Weekly Show with myself and Steve Risley to wrap up Indiana's big game tonight against Northwestern. And I'm an Indiana fan, but if I bet this game right now, Northwestern's a 1-point dog, I would take Northwestern in a point. But we're going to wrap it up, guys. So for now, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.